So many people class you the face of BWR. Is that fair?
Um, that's really bad PR for BWR if that's the case. I guess so. I like to think of BWR as a bit of cooperative. Really,
Hmm.
I think it's a very much a group effort. I actually came in on the second show for BWR, but since then we've kind of slowly evolved, and there's a small team of us that kind of book the shows and arrange the shows, and it's kind of a small team that does little things to kind of put the whole thing together, really. But I'm kind of the front face, I guess. I'm the guy they shove out there for any kind of PR or anything like that. So it's probably a bad state of affairs for Grimsby if I'm the face, but all good, mate. It's all good.
Of course. So today we're talking to obviously Richard Young. We've got loads to talk about, but of course, intern, roll the intro. So, Richard, it's been a while, my friend. Have you been keeping busy? You all right?
I'm great, thank you very much. Yeah, I think the last time we saw each other was in fun circumstances. I feel,
Yeah.
but it's been all good, mate. It's been a kind of dramatic 12 months, but since the turn of this year, it's all good. BWR is going really well. Family life is good. Yeah, exciting, mate. Really exciting.
Awesome. So I was just about to say, how's your week been? Busy week as always?
Yeah, so my proper job, which I can only say civil servant on here. I can't technically reveal what I do for a living, but yeah, all good. And then I've got a wedding to DJ at the weekend. Then all kind of sorts of cheesy entertainment that we do in the meantime, and then we've got BWR at the end of the month. So a busy old kind of March coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll obviously talk about BWR later on, but of course, today is more about you, really. We've obviously got loads to obviously talk about. I mean, you've been in wrestling, was it 23 years, I think you said?
Yeah, so the first show I ever did was in the year 2000. Yeah, so 20, I've done a few bits from refereeing to promoting. Did a little bit of promoting years gone by, and primarily though as a ring announcer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously on Twitter, somebody posted out that you did some work for FWA. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, the whole map of my kind of like wrestling life revolves around one guy, and that guy being Steve Knight. I don't know if you know Steve, but Steve was a wrestler from this area, from the Grimsby area, in the kind of 90s and early 90s. Extremely talented for that era, very, very good. And just it's still one of my best friends to this day. And pretty much everything I've done in wrestling is because he needed someone to travel with, and that somebody was kind of me. Everything every job I've done in wrestling's pretty much been vicariously because of Steve. I'm like the Brutus Beefcake of British wrestling. I just happened to have a friend that kind of got me involved. But yeah, I worked for the FWA mainly on the northern shows they did. So Morecambe, Cleethorpes, Bolton, kind of them areas. But I did a couple of the Broxbourne shows as well in the real peak of FWA as well, when when a lot of them guys hadn't been signed up, and we were still getting a lot of the indie guys over from America, the guys from TNA or Ring of Honor or whatever it may be. And it was a really exciting time. I mean, like it's nobody had done that before over here. I think it's really, really easy to forget what a bad state British wrestling was in the 90s. Like TV had gone in the late 80s, and WWE had just became massive over here, and British wrestling really got left behind. You had the tribute shows, but really there was nothing. I would argue FWA was the first to kind of go, you know what, there's a new crowd potentially here, and that crowd's on the internet, and that this kind of cult following of wrestling is available. And perhaps I would maybe the detriment of FWA was it was probably ahead of its time. Really, it was kind of just slightly ahead of that curve. If they came around a few years later, might have still been here today, but it was a really exciting time, and loved met some amazing people. Was part of the big super shows they did at Coventry. Being backstage and kind of walking around. Oh, there's Terry Funk. Oh, there's Mick Foley. Oh, from being I mean, at that time I was only kind of in my early 20s as well, so it was very surreal. And I look back at it now with great fondness.
I was just looking at some of the notable wrestlers, and there's some really, really big names we obviously see today. Obviously, Zack Sabre Jr. sticks out straight away. Jody Fleisch is obviously a big career in the UK. AJ Styles, CM Punk. Wow, I mean, there's some big names, out of the FWA.
Daniel Bryan was there. Chris Daniels, and Doug Williams really made his name in FWA. That was what kind of got him noticed by Ring of Honor and things like that. Mick Foley, Raven, D'Lo Brown. It was the first to really kind of embrace the Super Show thing. The show that later like 1PW took and Preston and people like that. FWA the first to do that, and did it most of the time successfully. The thing that probably killed FWA eventually, which has killed a lot of promotions, is that it doesn't translate well to tape sometimes if you don't have great production. And when the Wrestling Channel came along and FWA was the only kind of British show on there, which was good for them, but it didn't look great on tape. And I think that image slowly kind of, was maybe the beginning of the decline. There was a lot of other things as well, but I think I think everybody thought when he got TV, that was like, oh, okay, that's the next step now. We've had this cult audience for a while. Now we're going to grow it even more. But it never kind of worked out that way, unfortunately. But an amazing period, and like I think, a lot of the promotions that are out there now have got the FWA to thank for a lot of things. I think they were the first to take that risk and have a go.
There you go. So you just mentioned obviously refereeing as well. I mean, how did this all come about? You refereeing, because I'm curious to know this.
Okay, so yeah, like you said, okay, can I start from kind of the beginning? Probably, because this is a very convoluted story. Really, I'll try my best to kind of shorten it down. So, I was a massive wrestling fan, as many were in the 90s. And when I was about 15, this is so weird. And I think about it now, people would look at this and go, "There's something seriously wrong here." But honestly, there was nothing wrong with it. So I was a paper boy, like many people were. I had a little job in 1998. I was a paper boy, and the guy who owned the newsagent was friends with Steve Knight, and because he's from this area. And Steve was doing a show at a local YMCA in Grimsby, like a small show. Like Drew McDonald was on it, Phil Powers, a few of the people that were kind of around. But like I said, British wrestling was still not in a great shape at that point. So he knew I was a wrestling fan because he used to save me Power Slam magazine. So he basically, the only copy of Power Slam that got delivered to that newsagent was mine, and it got taken out of my wages, my £7 a week that I got from the newsagent. Which, when you're doing the Sunday papers, that is not a lot of money. But he said, so basically, he said, "Oh, my friend is a wrestler, and he's promoting a show, and if you deliver all these flyers, he will give you 2 tickets to the show." Well, I thought, well, that's the most incredible thing I've ever heard in my life. And I was like, yes, absolutely, I will. So off I went, and I went around the local area, because where I lived wasn't far from this YMCA, literally like a 10-minute walk. And so off I went, and it took me days, but we did it. Every single flyer went through a door. I was the happiest lad alive. I thought it was the most amazing thing. I was getting free tickets to a wrestling show. And then so went to the show, loved it. Then that same Power Slam magazine, this is where everything kind of comes full circle. So about half a year later, I'm reading Power Slam magazine, and there is Steve Knight. He's in Power Slam magazine, and it's promoting this show at Crystal Palace. In fact, the venue that where Pro have just run, the Crystal Palace Sports Arena. And this is 99 now, so we're talking. So it's still 20 odd years ago. And Steve Knight is on this show. Sorry, that's my cat in the background I do apologize. So Steve Knight's on this poster, and it's been promoted as the first British wrestling show to be on television in 10 years or whatever. So I was like, well, I've got to go. And bearing in mind, I'm only 15, my parents aren't taking me. So I dragged a friend, and we actually got a train from Grimsby to London. And it's incredible thinking about this now, how I did this, but got a train to London. It was at there's me, naive northerner, going, London's not that big, is it? It's fine, just get around on the tube or whatever. So naive northerner got to London. Crystal Palace is right down South London, isn't it? So it's blooming miles away from like King's Cross. Mm-hmm. So managed to get the train. We actually stayed over in a really rubbish B&B as well, and watched the show. And then after the show, I went on the UK Fan Forum, which is still around now, the UKFF.
Yep.
I went on the UK Fan Forum and reviewed the show. And I was complimentary about Steve on the show. Well, Steve picked this message up on the UK Fan Forum, and he private messaged me. He didn't know it was me, and he didn't know I was from Grimsby. So it all kind of came full circle. So in the end, so Steve then would blackmail me essentially and go, if you pay me £10 petrol, I'll take you to a show I'm doing. And I was going, well, this is the greatest thing ever. This is amazing. So he would be taking me to these shows and like these indie shows all over the country. I remember like going to Oxfordshire and places like that, and being in a car with a wrestler and learning about how it really works, and then going to shows, like meeting Doug Williams and people like that for the first time, and just being friends with them. And I was like 17, 18, so sorry, I was 16 at that point, thinking this is the most amazing thing ever. And so yeah, Steve started promoting shows locally under the UWA name, and it was literally a case of, Youngie, you're refereeing for me tonight. I was like, oh, okay. And I wasn't allowed in the locker. This is absolute genuine truth, but this is year 2000 now. I wasn't allowed in the locker room. I wasn't allowed in the changing room, because it was still all very old school, and it was very kind of, so basically the wrestlers would just come to me and go, this is our finish. That's it. I remember the first match I ever did was Doug Williams versus a local lad. And Doug just said, it was just like, just keep us aware of times and talk to us all the way through. Don't make it obvious. And that was literally it. I had no other training. I didn't have any training for bumping. And by the way, anyone who's refereeing out there, do not go down this route. Do not go down this route that I went down. It was a pure, this is a cautionary tale. But yeah, that was it. So, and because I was friends with Steve, that gave kudos. Like promoters were like, oh, well, if Steve knows the lad, yeah, he's fine, he can come down. And that's generally what it was. I was an awful referee. I can tell that now. I look at like Scott Bell or Kate or people like that now and go, oh man, you're like proper. I was not proper. I look back at some of them videos now, and I am so awkward looking. I'm so clunky in the ring. Once my trousers split during a match between Colt Cabana and Johnny Storm. Genuinely true. I was like, I bent down for something, and I could hear a bloke in the front row go, "Ref, I could see your ass." And I was that embarrassed. I went to Greg Lambert, who was promoting it. I was like, I can't come out for the second half. And like Greg was like, we've already got one referee. I was like, I can't go out like this. And put Greg, who, in fact, I spoke to Greg last week. I love Greg to bits. He's someone I consider a really good friend. He's like, yeah, he was okay. And they actually gave away them trousers in the raffle. True story. So yeah. But it was amazing. It was amazing in the sense of, at such a young age, just being around wrestlers and being around that company and just learning. But the best thing was being on the road and being on the road with Steve, because one, we had such a laugh. I mean, just me and him in the car. Me and Steve got like very differing political opinions, for example. But we would argue, but we would never fall out. And it's still like that to this day. And that's what I mean. Being in the car with somebody and just talking for hours on end about the business and how things work. that's how I learned. So it was yeah. I was terrible. I will put that out now. I will never referee again. But yeah, I loved it. I still loved it.
So how did you make the transition from referee to ring announcer? I'm curious.
Yeah, that was literally Steve telling a promoter that he had a friend that was a ring announcer. True story. It was he got booked for BCW in Scotland, who are still around now. And they did some really good shows up there even then, but they weren't drawing nowhere near the crowds that they were getting now. They were spending a lot of money on them shows as well. There was some big names they were bringing across, but at that time it just wasn't again probably ahead of his time. But yeah, he literally says to me one day, he went, "Have you got a suit, youngie?" I went, yeah, why? And he was like, "Oh, because I've told this promoter in Scotland that you can ring announce." I was like, "All right." Yeah, that was that, and went up to Scotland as an Englishman as well, very conscious, but that's how you learn. It's been you get thrown into that environment. It's sink or swim, isn't it? And luckily, like it went all right, and I got repeat bookings there, and it kind of we took it from there, and I think that was probably I want to say that's around about 2004, so that's nearly 20 years ago. So yeah, here we are, still chatting about it. It's great.
There you go. So you touched on the wrestling scene. Obviously, you've been in the wrestling world for so long. You've seen it grow from strength to weakness to strength. What's your opinion on the wrestling scene as a whole today?
It's in a good place, actually. I think wrestling's in a really good place. In this country, generally, if business is good in America, business is good here. That tends to be the trend over the last kind of 20 years. So it helps that business in America is really good. But I think that you're looking at kind of, I'm noticing more and more, I don't know about you, but a lot more shows seem to be selling out. You see more and more online now, aren't you? That indie shows we're getting, selling out in advance. I mean, Mega Slam, for example, Mega Slam are doing mega numbers, like ridiculous numbers. I think they had 2,000 in Barnsley last week, and I mean, here at in Grimsby, the auditorium, they had over 1,000 in. I know the business model is a little bit different because it's very much, isn't it? Sell them cheap, pack them in, isn't it? But even so, it means that the business is on people's lips, and I think what's going to be an interesting time now as well is that when the Netflix deal starts for WWE, they go from being in 1.5 million households in this country to 16 million. That is a huge increase, isn't it? So if that goes well and that increases the popularity of wrestling even more, if promoters are smart about it, then they will capitalize, and hopefully it means that the business grows even more. It helps as well that the talent is there as well. A lot of the NXT UK guys kind of slowly coming back has helped, because you realise actually why they got signed up in the first place, because they're genuinely very good. But I've never known the talent pool in this country to be anywhere near as deep as it is now. When I started 20 years ago, if you got 4 people on a card that were decent, you were lucky. So now you're absolutely spoiled for choice in all areas of the country as well. Everywhere you go, Wales, Scotland, North, South, it's there's talent everywhere. So it's really healthy.
Yeah, the one thing I actually like is we'll obviously touch on BWR later on. Is you've got somebody like Scotty Rawk who's doing good for obviously BWR, Tidal. There's so many different promotions and it's absolutely great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. The more people get work, the better, because the more you work, the better you get. It's simple as that. Is if you're only working 1 match a month, you're not improving, because it's really hard to improve when you're only kind of like limiting yourself. But the more you get out on the road, the more you're kind of working with different people with different styles. And Scotty Rawk is a prime example of that. He's somebody that I first met Scotty, and he won't mind me saying this, I don't think, when he wasn't great. When he was young and he was green. In fact, we laugh about it now, but I kind of once told him, I kind of give him a kind of a diagnosis of a match, and at the time he really didn't appreciate it. He wasn't very happy at all, but we laugh about it now. But he is somebody that has gone to every show, even if he's not working it, he's gone to shows, networked with people, then kind of done a bit of training in the ring beforehand. He speaks to the people that have been in the business for a little bit longer, the experiences they had, where they went training and things like that. And you get, and because of that, because of all them influences, you get better because of it. And he's a prime example of that, by just getting yourself out there, you know, maybe doing, you know, having to travel to the other side of the country for not very good money, but it's taking that sacrifice in for the long term gain. And now, like, you know, when British lads go into America or Japan 20 years ago, was not happening. It was minimal at best. And now, you know, you look at the rosters of both AEW, WWE, New Japan, there's Brits everywhere. So there's hope now. There is an end goal in sight. It's not unrealistic now to be able to think for any of them people, actually, there's a chance of going to America, there's a chance of going to Japan. So the fact that they've got that end goal and they're hungry for it and they're up for it only means, as consumers in this country, we get the best. Everybody wins.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we'll touch obviously on BWR. So the first thing I want to ask about this is, how did it all come to be that you obviously work for BWR?
Steve Nye, ironically. So no, right. It's right. Okay, so the previous promotion in Grimsby was a promotion called Real Deal Wrestling, and I worked quite a bit for them. And Steve, at this point, Steve Nye, had moved to Cyprus. He was living in Cyprus. His wife had got a job out there as a teacher, so he went to live in Cyprus. So I actually started working without Steve, which was weird at the first, but I started doing these Real Deal Wrestling shows. They were good. They were local shows. The attendance varied show to show, but they were okay, you know. But the promoter that promoted them shows kind of went, and he had a training school, and these lads from the training school, which included Scotty Rawk, Tyler Devlin, and a few others, kind of were in limbo, didn't have anything. Training school was gone. They probably didn't think, or maybe weren't good enough to kind of go elsewhere, or didn't have the means to do something. So they went, you know what, we'll give it a go ourselves, and started BWR. So I knew BWR was happening. Happy, I didn't think anything of it. No, you know, I didn't get asked initially to do the first show. I was fine with that. That's okay. I thought my time in wrestling was done, and that was okay. You know, I wasn't kind of, you know, didn't think anything of it really. But the second show that they did, Steve was back from Cyprus. He was coming back, and they booked Doug Williams for the show. So they asked Steve to do like a guest referee spot on the show. So I went, oh, I'll come with you, you know, because he was back. It gave me a chance to spend some time with Steve and to meet Doug as well, and to kind of, I knew a few of the guys from BWR as well, so it was always nice to kind of go and say hello. Literally got to the show, and it got to about 2 hours before the show starts, and I got a tap on the shoulder from James Hanna, who works backstage at BWR, who, again, sorry to kind of offshoot for a second, I went to college with James. He was in my media course class. I was involved with wrestling then, and he wasn't even really a fan. And about 5 years later, I remember switching on the internet and going, that's James Hanna, and he was wrestling. He was wrestling as a guy got a Havoc, and I was like, what's happened here? So I had a catch up with him, and he taps me on the shoulder and he goes, don't suppose you got your suit on, you youngie, by any chance?
I see where this is going.
Yeah, well, I didn't, but it was only like 10 minutes from home. I went, I can soon go and get it. He went, any chance you could ring announce tonight? So I ended up ring announcing that show, and afterwards, and this is straight away, I think I'm of the opinion is that, like, I if you're going to give me bad news or you're going to tell me something, I appreciate honesty more than I do kind of creeping around the subject. And what impressed me straight away was from the guys that run BWRs, you got Tyler Devlin, Scotty, K, people like that. They literally said, look, we didn't want to book you because you were associated with the old promotion, and we were trying to give a bit of a new face, and they were honest about that, and I appreciated that. And once we kind of got chatting, they were like, "Can you carry on?" And that was it. And we went from there, and then slowly, in fact, well, even really slowly, within a few shows, I was, kind of helping to book the show then with that team, and we've gone from there. And it's honestly, now we're 20 odd years in, it's the best thing I've ever done. I absolutely love it. I love them shows. I love being kind of part of it. I love being kind of creatively involved. It's and to be able to say that at the age of 40 is amazing. It's great, and yeah, so it's truly a pleasure to be part of.
So for people obviously listening who was obviously not familiar with BWR, give me a little bit of an insight, obviously, about obviously what the shows are like, etc.
Yeah, we're obviously based in the Lincolnshire's capital of Cleethorpes, the East Coast, East Side. So we've been running since 2017, as the hoodie says there. I would say it's a bit of a hybrid of indie style wrestling, but with show by show stories. So it is story driven, it is character driven wrestling, but maybe worked within an indie style, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of regular wrestlers, the wrestlers that have been literally with us from the start, or at least do kind of 4 or 5 shows for us a year. Our audience at the moment is regular audience. It's the same people that we saw kind of from the start have stayed with us. So they follow that kind of the story arc of BWR very closely. And generally, it is what we pride ourselves on, I think, is just a good night out. It's a great 3 hours of just fun wrestling. You don't have to overthink it. It's 6 or 7 matches of big characters, big fun, and enjoyable pro wrestling.
There you go. So obviously the next show we've got is No Gods, No Masters, which is a killer name, by the way. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at the time of recording, we've got 4 matches announced. You could prove me wrong on this. So the first one is, which I'm excited for, Miles Kamen, Reese and Rogan versus Amir Jordan and GBH.
Yes.
Go on, you can promote this match a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, look at the 6 people involved. Miles Kamen, I honestly believe, is the future of British wrestling. He's a star. He has improved so much in the last 18 months. He's a big character. He carries himself like a star. It was interesting when we had Trent Seven last year. I was kind of like at the back wall of the arena, kind of watching it was Miles. I can't remember who Miles was on with, but Trent Seven was next to me, and he'd never seen Miles before, and he was going to me. He was like, "Oh my god, he's amazing! He's absolutely incredible." He was like, "I would love to work with him." And when you've got people that have been in WWE and the system saying that, how good he is, but everybody in that match is great as well. You've got Reese and Rogan, who are a proper tag team, a throwback tag team, big hard blokes. That's simple as that, innit? Yep. No fuss, no kind of just people who like to punch people in the face and don't care if they're liked or not. And then you've got the best cruiserweight in the country, maybe at the moment, Robbie X. Rob, I am very lucky. I've seen Robbie from the very beginning, and his improvement is absolutely amazing. He's athletically gifted. It amazed me. I spoke to him not long back about kind of my daughter does gymnastics, and I was asking him about kind of, what did you do when you went, "Oh, I never did anything." I said, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Oh, I never did gymnastics, never did anything like that. I was all self-taught." I was like, my God, like, incredible. Amir Jordan, the most charismatic babyface in the country. You can't help but smile when Amir Jordan comes out, can you? You can't help but smile. You can't help but join in with that music. He's a bag of charisma. WWE has improved him so much as well. Being there. yeah, everyone loves Amir Jordan, and I tell you what, who is improving every match I see him in. And he's a real student of the game. Is Blake? He's a big heavyweight. He perhaps, I would maybe say, had to discover himself a little bit. It took him time to kind of realize what really he is. But he said he quite regularly sends me messages and things like that. Goes, what do you think of this? What do you think? I'm trying this. A real student of the game who wants to be something in this business. He wants to get better. This match, yeah, on paper, this could be an absolute banger. Really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So next up we got is the Rao brothers and Hack and Slash. I have seen Jay obviously in wrestle, and he's probably one of the best there. But there's a couple there I've not actually seen. So yeah, promote this match.
The Row Bros. That's who they are. The Row Bros. Yeah. So brothers, Zachary Rowe and Connor Rowe. Just a classic young, high flying babyface tag team. That's you know what you get in, the good fun, and yeah, first time I saw Jay Vertigo's last show. Actually, it's the first time I ever watched it, and I was really impressed. For somebody who's been in the business as kind of not as long as he has, I thought, oh, there's a real upside with him. And Brendan Butcher, who's tagging with, is somebody who's come through our Evo Academy, as are the Row Bros as well. Come through the Evo Academy. Started working for a bit for PPW as well. I think doing training with them as well. Just real hard-working guys. And it's really nice to be able to kind of showcase on our main shows now a little bit more our Evo guys. So yeah, you know what you're going to get? You're going to get 10-15 minutes of a good, fun, old-fashioned tag match with 4 guys who want to make a name for themselves. And you know what? It might be messy at times, but it'll be good fun.
Absolutely. The next match, obviously, has been announced is Shaw Samuels, Nathan Cruz, and Joseph Connors. I mean, our class Nathan Cruz is probably a veteran during the UK scene. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. The Nathan is so good. In fact, all 3 are proper pros in this match, aren't they? They're like Joe. Joe Connors is somebody I saw really early in his career. His improvement is incredible, and before he went to WWE, he was like our main babyface, Joe Connors. Like people loved him at BWR, really loved him, and carried him. He carried himself like a star.
Oh, is it?
Because he is, yeah, absolutely. Shah Samuels, I mean, what Shah has done really well is almost like he's reinvented himself but stayed the same, which is really weird. Reinvented himself as in looks slimmer. He's got himself down athletically, probably added years to his career, but he's still got that kind of cheeky East End kind of butcher kind of vibe going on. But Cruzy, yeah, we can't say anything kind of bad about Nathan. He's that good. He's that good. I mean, he's a pro's pro. He'll be somebody in years' time when perhaps he's not wrestling anymore that people will appreciate a lot more. I feel he's so, everyone who works with him tells how easy it is. It's a night off working with Nathan, even though he'll work you hard. Like he's just that damn good. And you know, he backstage, he carries himself like a professional. He acts like a professional. You know, he's there for business. He's very business driven. But the best, the absolute best.
And of course, we spoke about Scotty Rawk quite a while, and he's in action, of course, against Jimmy McKelvey. Ever said that right?
McKilwee, yeah.
Title versus hair match. I've just noticed that then as I've read it.
Yeah. So the story is going in that Scotty Rawk is now a bad guy in BWR, which he's betrayed his hometown audience. Him, Jimmy McKilwee, and Tyler Devlin were the bedrock of BWR. The 3 originals, the 3 local lads who started it together and have carried their journey on all the way through it. And in the story, Scotty Rawk won the Anarchy briefcase match, like our version of the Money in the Bank, and later that night turned on his friends He turned on Jimmy McIlvey and he turned on Tyler Devlin. Tyler Devlin hasn't been seen since. But Jimmy, who is normally a happy-go-lucky, cheeky baby face that doesn't kind of do hard battles or doesn't do confrontations, is seeking revenge. And in the story, Scotty said, well, "You don't deserve a title shot. You've got nothing to contend for. What have you got that's worth for me?" And Jimmy said, "Well, I've got my hair. I will put my hair on the line for that title shot." So this is where it leads us. So yeah, our main event for the night will be Scotty Rawk versus Jimmy McIlvey, title versus hair, and there could be tears. There generally could be tears. Jimmy is well loved with the BWR audience. I have a feeling his family are going to be in the crowd. It could be an emotional night, either way, win or lose. So yeah, get your hankies ready. It could be a messy one.
So I want to obviously move back to obviously announcing and stuff. And I asked Stevie Aaron this question. Number one, are you critical of your own work? And number two, are you critical of other people's work?
Yes and yes. Anybody that works, okay, I won't say anybody, that's generalizing, but most people, I would imagine, in this business, because it is a show business, it's likes to secretly think they're the best. And we all kind of do it where we look at somebody ringing. I'll say to Stevie, I love Stevie, but I'll say to Stevie at one BW, I'd be like, I could do that, not good with me, yeah, it's nature of the beast, right? But yeah, I'm also very self-critical, very self-aware. If you ask Simon Herring, our photographer, like, I hate having my photo taken. I'm like Chandler in Friends, that kind of show where he has really. I feel like that, where everything is really awkward. But I feel a lot more comfortable in our environment, because it is almost like being greeted by 200 friends. Because it is like, my wife sat there. In fact, it's worth for my wife. I'd rather not her watching me. My wife's there, my daughter's there, my nieces are there every show. And the people, some of these people in the audience are people that I used to go and watch wrestling with in like 95, 96, and they're still there. They're still the Memorial Hall. So I feel a lot more comfortable in our environment. The stuff I did for 1PW, like the backstage stuff, I hated every single bit. When I watched it back, I cringed. It was a really uncomfortable being kind of a backstage interviewer. I was just like, that's not for me at all. But I love, because I've done DJing as well over the years and done weddings and things like that. Like, I always think to myself, well, if you can entertain a wedding when you walk into a room like where 100 people have already been drinking for most of the day, and you can keep them entertained and you can keep them happy, I think that's far harder than going in front of a wrestling audience in the nicest possible way. So sometimes it feels like a bit of a night off after doing DJing weddings, going to BWR. So it's so yeah, I am my own worst critic, and I am critical of other people. I'm not afraid to say it.
There you go. So you've obviously talked some about your highlights from FWA and stuff. Is there any more highlights which you look back going, I'm proud of that moment, which you've not obviously discussed today?
Yeah, promoting. Yeah, me and Steve promoted 2 shows in Hull in 2005, under the banner of IWP, International Wrestling Promotions. If you go on YouTube, actually, you can find the first show on there called The Gathering, and we drew over 1,000 people for both shows, and didn't do it with imports or anything like that. We did it with British talent. I'm really proud of the efforts that we made to get them shows kind of going, really, because it was a big effort. Hull's a big city, and essentially our attitude was, we need to make sure that at least 75% of the city know that there's a wrestling show going on. And that was a big effort to do that, like whether it be flyering, postering all around the place, getting local TV involved, radio involved. It was a real monumental effort. And for them shows to draw and do well, It was amazing. It's such a buzz. I'm so proud. And the thing is, I think the skills of learning that and doing that are the better than any kind of qualification I got from university. It's better than any kind of school qualification or whatever that may be. To be able to just kind of throw yourself in the deep end and just go for it and learn along the way has stood me in the best, I think, the best way possible. It's best outside having my wife and my kids and stuff, and anything that Grimsby Town do. It's I think it's the best thing I've ever achieved. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So you've been obviously in wrestling, as we mentioned quite a few times. 23 years, been for obviously promotion, travelled up and down the world. Well, around the UK, should I say? Sorry.
Yeah.
What's next for obviously for Richard Young? What's the goals for like now until you've had? Not, I won't say had enough like to retire.
Yeah, and I'll never retire. I don't think I'll be like Bruce Forsyth. They'll be like reeling me out in my 80s. I think if they'll have me anyway. But no, look, my goal is just to now is to enjoy it. And the minute I stop enjoying it, will be the minute I stop doing it. I think what I want to do as well. If I can, if by the time I do kind of walk away from it, I can look at people like Tyler Devlin and Scotty Rawk and people like that, and they're in a better place in their careers, then I'm happy. I like wrestling owes me nothing. It really owes me. It's brought me so much happiness over the years. It owes me absolutely nothing. If I'm happy just doing shows, that's enough for me. The best thing is now my daughter, like I said, my daughter comes to every show and absolutely loves it. I've made some incredible friends. If I just feel that, as long as I'm contributing a little bit, I'm happy. And I'd love to do a little bit for other promotions as well. But I'm not desperate. And as long as BWR is thriving, that is the main thing for me. I'm just just happy for other people. It's great.
There you go. So a few little more questions as we begin to obviously wind down. Fans obviously got the chance to send some questions in, and one which was, what would your ultimate venue you'd like to work in? Like a venue?
Oh, well, the dream would be Blundell Park, the home of Grimsby Town Football Club. A stadium show in a place that I have visited thousands of times over the last 30 odd years. That would be the ultimate dream. You know what? And it's maybe a little controversial. I'd like to do Donny Dome again, but I don't know. Maybe under a different guise this time. But it would be nice just to kind of go back and maybe right a few wrongs.
Yeah, that is the venue was absolutely terrific. I mean, that's also how I met you and stuff like that. But yeah, under different circumstances, I have to agree on that one.
Yeah, the engine shed at Lincoln as well. Another one. Tremendous venue, and the staff there. Both staff, but the staff at Lincoln particularly were amazing. So accommodating. Like their production team were absolutely on the ball all day long. Venue looked great, packed out. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame right now that them venues are not being used for wrestling. But you never know. Never know what the future's going to bring, right?
No, exactly. So one final question is, who do you think the next big thing is? So who do you think's the one to watch, wrestler-wise?
Are we talking in Britain or are we talking worldwide?
Go Britain, go in the UK.
Okay, well, I mean, Miles Kamen straight away comes to mind there. I think it's quite criminal, actually, that people like Rev Pro and Progress and people like that are still kind of sleeping on Miles Kamen, though I think he has just been booked for Progress, hasn't he?
Yes.
He's that good. I honestly think he's that good. I know that she is. I know she's a star now, but we've never used her at BWR. But I would love to see Lizzie Evo. She blew me away at 1PW. I thought, like, as a natural character, she is somebody like you could put her on Raw and give her 2 minutes on the mic and she would become a star overnight. I'm 100% convinced of that. She could go to America now, and you could put her. I think you could put her on TV, and she would get heat quickly. To have that promo skills for somebody of her age, for somebody of her experience, man, she's great. She's really, really good. Have you heard of ZZ?
I have, yes.
Yeah, she's great. She's 19 years old, and she's terrific. Like, she looks fantastic. As in, she's tall. She's got a really different look to her. I think, of course, she's a little bit kind of rough around the edges right now, but that's because she's young, and she'll learn from learning with better people, like we talked about earlier. She's somebody, I think, for her age, she's the world's her oyster. If she wants it, like, it's there for her. Like, she's really, really good. Yeah, I think obviously we talked about Scotty Rawk. What I like about Scotty particularly now as well, that he's embracing being a heel. He's not he's not half-hearting it. It's not, he's really gone and kind of looked inside himself, and kind of really kind of drawn a character from there as well. But equally, he can go to somebody else on a Saturday and be a really amazing babyface. So it's when you've got that ability, you're there, aren't you? So yeah, they're the kind of four I can think of right now.
Yeah, the one thing I like with Scotty is that you can do face or heel. I've seen obviously videos with him doing both, and he just works it so well.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And it's hard for us. We were kind of talking when he turned heel about, like, okay, how do you do it as a smaller wrestler? How do you do it when you're smaller in size and you're smaller in height? And he's embraced it. He's like, I'll find the way. I'll get, and we were always kind of, I so loved in Grimsby. Is it going to happen? And now he is hated in Grimsby. It's gone completely full circle. It's amazing.
Yeah, so as part of my 12 in 12 challenge I'm doing this year to do 12 different promotions, BWR is on my list, and I'm looking to get to the anniversary show, which is later on in the year. I think it's July.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in July. So usually the big one of the year, the anniversary show.
So I will. Yeah, so I will be obviously seeing you at that show. So one final thing from you, Richard. Is there anything you want to plug, my friend?
Well, obviously, yeah, BWR on demand. If you Google literally BWR on demand, £5 a month, and all our back catalogue is on there from 2017 onwards. So look, even if you join it for a couple of months and you get through the shows, amazing. We just appreciate your contribution. We've got merch on sale as well, like this wonderful hoodie, but they sell out very, very quickly. If you join our Facebook page, particularly, that's where we tend to kind of the most, because in our local demographic, Facebook is probably the most popular social media platform. So join our socials, British Wrestling Revolution. Yeah, we've only got literally 10 tickets left for No Gods, No Masters. Look at that. Look at that. Beautiful. Yeah, March 23rd, as you can see, 10 tickets left. And that is after we sold out our initial allocation. The venue have been very kind to us in doing a little bit of seat rearranging so we can get some more seats in, which is great. And to do it with like literally 3 weeks before a show, to have over 200 people in there is incredible. So that's it. From a non-wrestling point of view, a quick plug for Old Town Are We. If you like football, it is a documentary. Oh, there you go. Well, it's a documentary about my team, Grimsby Town, and its playoff journey a couple of years ago, where we had the most incredible playoff run, be in Wrexham and Notts County, and I was lucky enough to be vox popped for it, and I'm in the series quite a bit. It's on Amazon Prime, and I'm also on the series more than Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, who very kindly agreed to be interviewed for it as well. But I tell my wife I got more airtime than Deadpool. There you go.
And what did she say to that?
She just kind of frowned and went, "You didn't meet him, though, did you?" So that was that. So I can't win points here. Look, I know my role in this house. I'm behind the three cats and the daughters. I'm like 50 in the pecking order. It's fine. It's no problem.
Rich, this has obviously been an absolute fun chat, my friend. Obviously, all the best for BWR and stuff. I will be seeing you in the near future. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, Liam, and yeah, look forward to seeing you, mate.
Cheers, pal.